Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will present of my presentation language learning assessment chapter 10 and 11. Chapter 10 Beyond the alternative in assessment. Alternative assessment. The first, early in the decade of the 1990s, in a culture of rebellion against the notion that all people and all skill could be measured by traditional tests, a novel concept emerged that began to be labeled alternative assessment. The second, that concept was to assemble additional measures of student portfolios, journals, observation, self-assessment, peer assessment, and the like in an effort to triangulate that data about students. The last, Brown and Harrison 1998, note that to speak of alternative assessment is counterproductive because the term implies something new and different that may be exempt from the requirement of responsible test conduction. So they propose to refer to alternative in assessment instead. Their term is a perfect fit within a model that considers it as a subset of assessment. The characteristic of alternative in assessment. The first, they require students to perform, create, produce, or do something. Next, they use real-world context or simulation. Next, they are non-institutive in that they extend the day-to-day classroom activities. Next, they allow students to be assessed on what they normally do in class. Next, they use tasks that represent meaningful instructional activities. Next, they focus on process as well as products. Next, they tap into higher level thinking and problem-solving skills. Dilemma in standard and alternative in assessment. The first, formal standard tests are almost by definition highly practical, reliable instruments. They are designed to minimize time and money on the part of test designer and test taker, and be painstakingly accurate in their scoring. Next, alternatives such as portfolios or conferencing with students on drives or written work or observation of learning over time or require considerable time and effort on the part of the teacher and the student. Next, but the alternative techniques also offer markedly greater waste-back, also for the formative measures, and because of their authenticity, usually carry greater face validity. Performance-based assessment. Performance-based assessment implies productive observable skills such as speaking and writing of content-valid tasks. Such performance usually but not always brings with it an air of authenticity, real-world tasks that students have had time to develop. It often implies an integration of language skills, perhaps all four skills in the case of project work. The characteristic of performance assessment. The first, students make a constructive response. They engage in higher order thinking with open-ended tasks. Tasks are meaningful, engaging, and authentic. Tasks call for the integration of language skill. Both process and product are assessed. Depth of students' mastery is emphasized over breadth. Procedure for performance-based assessment. Performance-based assessment procedure need to be treated with the same rigor as traditional tests. This implies that teachers should: the first, state the overall goal of the performance, specify the objective or criteria of the performance in detail, prepare students for performance in stepwise progression, use a reliable evaluation form, checklist, or rating sheet. Treat performance as opportunities for giving feedback and provide that feedback systematically. If possible, utilize self and peer assessment judiciously. Portfolios. A portfolio is a first visible collection of student work that demonstrates student effort, progress, and achievement in given areas. Portfolios include materials such as essay and composition in draft and final form, report, project outlines, audio or video recording of presentation, demonstration, journal, diaries, and other personal reflection, test score, and written homework exercise, self and field assessment, comment, evaluation, and checklist. Attributes of portfolios. The first, collecting, is an expression of student lives and identifies. Reflecting is thinking about experience and activities. Assessing is evaluating quality and development over time. Documenting is demonstrating student achievement. Linking is connecting student and teacher, parent, community, and peer. Evaluating, generating responsible outcome. Step and guidelines. The first, state objectives clearly. Give guidelines on what materials to include, communicate assessment criteria to students, design time within the curriculum for portfolio development, establish periodic schedule for review and conferencing, design an accessible place to keep portfolios, provide positive feedback when giving final assessment, journal. A journal is a log of one's thought, feeling, reaction, assessment, ideas, or progress toward goal, usually written with little attention to structure, form, correctness. The second, journal obviously serve important pedagogical purpose. Practice in the mechanic of writing, using writing as a thinking process, individualization, and communication with the teacher. Step for journals. 1. Sensitively introduce to the concept of journal writing. Next, state the objectives of the journal, language learning log, grammar journals, response to readings, strategies based learning logs, assessment reflection, and etc. Next, give guidelines on what kind of topic to include. Carefully specify the criteria for assessing or grading journals. Provide optimal feedback in the response. Design a time frames and schedule for review. Provide formative feedback giving final comments. Conference and interviews. Conference are not limited to drafts of written work. It must assume that the teacher plays the role of facilitator and guide, not of a formal assessment. A number of generic questions that may be useful to pose in conference are: what did you like about this work? What do you think you did well? How does it show improvement from previous work? Can you show me the improvement? What did you do when you did not know a word that you want to write or say? Guideline for conference and interviews. 1. Offer an initial atmosphere of warmth and anxiety lowering or warm up. Begin with relatively simple question. Continue with level check and probe question, but adapt to the interview as needed. Frame questions simply and directly. Focus on only one factor each question. Do not combine several objectives in same question. Be prepared to repeat or reframe questions that are not understood. Wind down with friendly and reassuring doing comments. Observation. Observation is a systematic, planned procedure for real-time, almost furtive recording of student verbal and non-verbal behavior. One of the objectives of such observation is to assess students without their awareness and possible consequent anxiety of the observation so that the naturalness of the language development is maximized. Potential observation, sentence level oral production skill, pronunciation of target sound, intonation, etc. Grammatical features, verb tense, question formation, discourse level skill, conversation rules, turn taking, and other macro skill. Interaction with classmates, comparison, frequency of oral production. Self and peer assessment. Self-assessment derived its theoretical from a number of well-established principles of second language acquisition. The principle of autonomy is vital. It consists of the ability to set one's own goals both within and beyond the structure of a classroom curriculum. to pursue them without the presence of an external push, and to independently monitor that pursuit. Peer assessment is simply one arm of a plethora of tasks and procedures within the domain of learners' content and collaboration education. Type of self and peer assessment. 1. Assessment of a specific performance. Indirect assessment of general competence. Metacognitive assessment for setting goals. Socio-affective assessment. Student-generated tasks. Guidelines for self and peer assessment. 1. Tell students the purpose of the assessment. Define the task clearly. Encourage impartial evaluation of performance or ability. Ensure beneficial feedback through follow-up tasks. Chapter 11, Grading and Student Evaluation. Philosophy of grading, consistent with an institutional philosophy and regulation. Achievement, attendance, style in writing. Subjective elements, improvement, behavior, effort, motivation. Checklist, chart, note-taking system. Weight, relative, achievement proof. Calculating grades, absolute system, points for different performance, accumulated for the semester. Relative system, ranking students in order of performance, percentage ranks, and assigning cut-off points for grades. Teacher interpretation, adjustment difficulty of tests. Alternative to letter grading. Alternative to letter grading, formative, marginal, or any comments. Written reaction to a student's self-assessment of performance. Review of the test in a next class. Field assessment of performance. Self-assessment of performance. Summative, marginal, or and comment to exam paper project. Summative, written evaluation remarks on a journal, portfolio, or other tangible product. Written reaction to the student self-assessment of performance in a course. Summative checklist of competence with comments. Narrative evaluation of general performance on key objectives confirmed with the study. That's all from me. Sorry if there any mistake. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.